Have you ever tried to focus on your day only to realize that one person has quietly followed you into every thought? No matter how hard you try to stay busy, they appear in the smallest moments, while you're driving, listening to music, or lying awake long after the world has gone silent. It can feel confusing, almost as if your mind has chosen someone your heart can no longer ignore. But what if those constant thoughts aren't random at all? What if they're revealing something important about your emotional world? Psychology offers an interesting perspective. Our minds naturally return to people who carry emotional significance, especially when a relationship feels unfinished, deeply meaningful, or connected to our strongest hopes and fears. The brain isn't always trying to bring that person back into your life. It may simply be trying to understand an emotion that hasn't fully settled yet. That's why some people stay in our thoughts long after a conversation ends, or even after they've left our lives. In this video, we'll explore the deeper psychological reasons someone can stay on your mind all the time. You may discover that the answer isn't just about them. It may also reveal something powerful about you, your emotions, and the hidden messages your mind has been trying to tell you all along. Sign 1. Your mind always finds its way back to them. Have you noticed that no matter how busy your day becomes, your thoughts eventually circle back to the same person? You can fill your schedule with work, friends, or distractions, yet the moment your mind gets quiet, they're there again. This isn't necessarily because you're choosing to think about them. It's often because your brain is still trying to process an emotional experience that feels incomplete. Psychologists have long observed that the mind pays special attention to unfinished emotional stories. When a relationship leaves behind unanswered questions, unspoken feelings, or hopes that never had the chance to become reality, your brain keeps revisiting it, almost like rereading the final chapter of a book that suddenly ends halfway through. It's searching for meaning, clarity, or emotional resolution. What's interesting is that the person themselves may not be the only reason they're on your mind. Sometimes it's the way they made you feel, safe, excited, understood, or even uncertain. Those emotions leave a lasting imprint, and your mind naturally returns to experiences that carried strong emotional weight. In many cases, you're remembering the feeling just as much as the person. So if someone keeps appearing in your thoughts, don't rush to see it as fate or a hidden message from the universe. Instead, ask yourself a quieter question. What part of this connection still feels unfinished inside me? The answer to that question often reveals far more than the constant thoughts ever could. Sign 2. The smallest things suddenly remind you of them. It often starts with something completely ordinary. A song you've heard 100 times suddenly feels different. A familiar street, a certain perfume, a favorite food, or even the color of the evening sky brings them rushing back into your mind. You aren't trying to think about them, but somehow they're there again, as if every little detail is quietly whispering their name. This happens because the human brain is built to connect emotions with experiences. When someone becomes emotionally important, your mind links them to the places, sounds, smells, and moments you shared or even imagined sharing. Over time, those everyday things become emotional triggers. They don't create the memory, they simply unlock it, often before you're even aware of what's happening. What's even more surprising is that these reminders don't always reflect the present. They reflect the emotional meaning your brain gave those moments. That's why a simple melody can bring back a feeling you thought you had already moved past. Your mind isn't necessarily asking you to hold on to the person. It's reminding you of an emotion that once felt deeply alive. So the next time something unexpectedly reminds you of them, pause before assuming it means you're meant to be together. Sometimes it's simply your heart recognizing a memory that still carries emotional weight. And healing doesn't begin when the memories disappear. It begins when those memories no longer have the power to control how you feel. Sign 3. You keep replaying conversations that never happened. Have you ever caught yourself imagining a conversation with them while you're alone? Maybe you picture them apologizing, finally telling you how they feel, or saying the words you've been waiting to hear. Sometimes you even rehearse what you would say back, creating an entire dialogue that exists only inside your mind. It feels so real that, for a moment, you almost forget it never happened. Psychologically, this is the brain's way of searching for emotional completion. When something important is left unsaid or unresolved, your mind continues working on it behind the scenes. It's not because you're weak or unable to move on. It's because the brain naturally tries to fill in missing pieces, hoping to create a sense of understanding and emotional closure. But here's the deeper truth. Those imagined conversations often reveal more about your own emotional needs than about the other person. They expose the words you needed to hear, the reassurance you longed for, or the goodbye you never truly received. In many cases, your mind isn't waiting for them to speak. It's waiting for your own heart to find peace. So if you find yourself replaying conversations that only exist in your imagination, don't judge yourself. Instead, listen carefully to what those conversations are trying to tell you. Sometimes the closure you've been searching for isn't hidden in someone else's response. It's quietly waiting in your own acceptance, ready to set you free. Sign 4. You're thinking more about how they made you feel than who they really are. There comes a moment when you realize something surprising. You aren't always remembering what they said or what they did. Instead, you're remembering how you felt when they were around. The comfort, the excitement, the hope, the butterflies, or even the feeling that someone finally saw you. Without noticing it, those emotions begin to shine brighter than the person themselves. Psychology suggests that our minds don't simply store people, they store emotional experiences. When someone arrives during a lonely season or awakens a part of you that had been asleep for years, the feelings they create can become deeply rooted in your memory. Over time, it's easy to confuse missing the emotion with missing the person. That's why you may find yourself holding on to an idealized version of the connection rather than the reality of who they truly were. This doesn't mean your feelings weren't real. They absolutely were. But emotions can sometimes paint a softer picture than reality, causing us to remember the highlights while quietly overlooking the moments that hurt us, confused us, or made us question our worth. The heart has a beautiful way of preserving hope, but sometimes it does so by editing the story. The most healing question you can ask isn't, "Why can't I stop thinking about them?" It's, "Am I missing this person? Or am I missing the way I felt when I believed I was loved, understood, or deeply connected?" That single question can gently separate memory from reality, and in doing so, help your heart take its first true step toward peace. Sign 5. Letting go feels like you're losing a part of yourself. Sometimes the hardest part isn't missing the person, it's missing the version of yourself that existed when they were in your life. You remember who you were when you smiled at their messages, looked forward to seeing them, or believed something beautiful was just beginning. When that connection changes or disappears, it can feel as though a piece of your own identity has quietly gone with it. Psychology explains that meaningful relationships often become woven into our daily emotional routines. We don't just get used to a person. We get used to the feelings, habits, and future we imagined with them. When that bond is broken, the brain experiences more than emotional pain. It must also adjust to a new reality, one where familiar thoughts, expectations, and routines no longer have a place. That's why letting go can feel less like forgetting someone and more like learning how to be yourself again. But here's what many people don't realize. If someone is constantly on your mind, it doesn't always mean they're meant to stay in your life forever. Sometimes they entered your life to reveal something about your heart, your capacity to love, your deepest needs, your hidden fears, or the parts of yourself that were waiting to be seen. The connection may change, but the growth it awakened can remain with you forever. So if you're struggling to let go, don't mistake that pain for proof that you'll never move forward. Healing doesn't erase meaningful memories, and it doesn't ask you to pretend someone never mattered. It simply teaches you that the love, hope, and strength you once believed came from another person have been growing in sigs. If someone has been on your mind every single day, don't see it as a sign to lose yourself. See it as an invitation to understand yourself. Some people enter our lives to stay, and others arrive to teach us something our hearts were ready to learn. If this video spoke to your experience, let me know in the comments. Has someone been living in your thoughts lately? And if you enjoy exploring the psychology behind love, emotions, and human behavior, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me in the next video.